the Word Hole Media presentation of Major League A-Holes in the Hole and Sock Stop thing. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. You are in the hole with Major League A-Holes on a Festivus afternoon.
We will be airing grievances.
Yeah,
sure.
We'll be definitely airing grievances today. It's a Festivus miracle we even got on the air today. We've had many delays, technical issues, all sorts of crazy shits going on. But it would be pretty apropos for us Major League A-Holes to have a struggle to get on the air.
Yeah, totally.
It's also, of course, our 5th annual Asshole of the Year award. I can't believe we've done this for 5 years, which is crazy. Through a pandemic, through everything else. This is our 5th. We will wrap up the show with that. Before we get to that, though, we've got to talk about all the news happening. Of course, we always suspected it, but the Dodgers have proven without a shadow of a doubt that the luxury tax isn't real, as they have signed just about everybody to ridiculous contracts. We're going to talk about our teams, who they've signed, who they've not signed, who they've traded. Giants and Tigers are rather active on that front. Sox and Cubs, not so much, but we may or may not throw in an aesthetics if it fits in their final aesthetics of the year, but we'll see how this goes. So far, not so good. So I'm not counting on anything at this point.
We are 45 minutes behind our schedule launch time today to record this, folks, and we have been trying to get on the air that entire 45 minutes. So this could technically be our longest show ever, just not of recorded material.
If we're actually recording, we'll
find out. Could be our best show ever for no one to hear.
I think we should just go ahead and jump into the news.
What's going on? I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit old news now, of course, but Shohei Ohtani did indeed sign with the LA Dodgers, as everyone knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. We talked about that many times. I was holding out a little bit of hope that he might come to the Cubs.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, that was not to be. How he got to the Dodgers was a bit of a circuitous route, curious tale, as JP Morosi at one point had us all on a private jet flying to Toronto with Shohei Ohtani as he was about to sign with the Blue Jays.
Yes.
And that ended up being completely false somehow. I don't know how a reputable reporter like Morosi, he's no Bob Nightingale. He's usually spot on.
Bob was the one who corrected it.
The irony of ironies. Bob Nightingale, of all people, chimed in about 5 o'clock on that fateful Friday saying none of that was true. Shohei Ohtani was in his living room in Southern California, which begs the question, was Bob like a peeping Tom, like looking in his windows? Like, how did he know? How could he confirm that?
He's parked out front.
I'll never put anything past Bob Nightingale. So it was too perfect that it's so confusing. It was such a weird day, and it was all brought into clarity by none other than Bob Nightingale. But I was riveted. I was definitely tuned into Twitter that afternoon and trying to follow all the news. But Blue Jays, Toronto just didn't make any sense to me, like to begin with. So I think the idea, and certainly having the Cubs kind of in the mix as well, I think Ohtani's agent was just trying to bump up the offer from the Dodgers, just saying other teams were actually in the mix, and it just wasn't true. I don't think he ever even met with the Cubs. That never surfaced. So as much hope as Cubs fans like myself had, I don't think it was ever even close. And you and I talked about it too. We knew from the beginning, like I said, he was going to the Dodgers all along. He doesn't have to uproot his life at all. He just goes across town to go to games now instead of going to Anaheim. So
exactly.
The deal itself is another eye opener, kind of a head scratcher.
I'm shocked, Smitty. They got him for only like $10 million. It's crazy.
Yeah, $2 million a year. For 10 years, not bad. 20 million, good work.
20 million, $20 million for Ohtani. Good deal.
Are you Dodgers?
I don't know how they freaking did it.
They're going to pay him $680 million to retire over the next 10 years, up until I think it's 20 44 or whatever.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a hit when new ownership takes over for the Dodgers at that point.
Yeah, nobody's worried about. Yeah, who's going to actually be working there at that point? Will the GM still be there? Possibly.
Yeah.
Ownership group may be in place, but maybe they have plans to sell by then. Who knows? But yeah, it's somebody else's problem. What it does for the Dodgers, of course, is it helps them circumvent the luxury tax system. Instead of being on the hook for $70 million a year, as what his contract really in all actuality is, they're only on the hook for $46 million per year due to the deferred money. So I'm still not fully sure I understand the math on that, but nobody's disputing that. So they're saving about $35 million on the luxury tax there. They just so happen to have also signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I forgot. I think I got his first name wrong there, but they just signed him for gasp, almost the exact same amount that they had left over from the cap space they created.
I know, it's so weird.
It's just I didn't see that coming at all.
I know, so strange. He's not deferring anything.
No,
the record.
Yeah. He doesn't have the $50 to $100 million a year in endorsement deals that Ohtani has. So Ohtani's got plenty of walking around money. I think he'll be all right. It's just there's literally a clause in the CBA that makes it possible for this to happen. It's not that there's just an oversight or a loophole. The clause literally says you can do this. It's just never been done to this extent. I think you posted on Twitter, it's been done before. It's done all the time, actually, deferred money. And
the worst are the Nationals are paying everyone not to play for them. Bryce Harper,
Max Scherzer.
I think I can't think of the other dude's name. There's like at least 3 people from that original team, that like big run team, that is getting paid still for the next 5 years.
So. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with it. And the graphic right behind you I made calls it tax dodgers. That's going to be the running joke, but they're not doing anything illegal. I think what this does, it's just the extent. They're deferring 97% of his contract, and it's also $680 million deferred. We've seen your Max Scherzer example. He deferred 50% of his contract, which is quite a bit, but that's only $100 million. So this, just the scale of both, just kind of nobody really could see this coming, and I guess we should have. But I think that means in the next CBA in 4 years now, I think that's going to be a bone of contention. That language might get adjusted a bit so that these things can't happen.
It definitely doesn't make things competitive.
Well, yeah, and that it was a farce to begin with we've talked about for years. But just for the Dodgers, who are definitely a team that can certainly go over the luxury cap if they want, they're the ones that exploit it the most. So just the layers of irony are brutal and frustrating, but that's how the game is played. So congrats to them for exploiting the rules to their advantage as much as they can. They're the ones that need it the least. But I was listening to Bruce Levine on Score this morning on Inside the Clubhouse, and he pointed out that the Dodgers TV deal pays them $300 million per year.
Ugh.
You and I have discussed at length that most it's between $80 and $100 million go to every Major League Ball club due to revenue sharing, baseball advanced media rights. Every team gets close to $100 million every year. So the Dodgers are one of those. They have $400 million coming in every season before they sell one ticket, before they sell one Shohei Ohtani jersey, before they sell any sponsorship. So the idea that, the salary cap, or the de facto salary cap, is just $238 million this year.
Yeah.
They have more than that coming in before they even sell a ticket, and yet they're circumventing the competitive balance tax rules. So that's baseball, I guess. We'll see if it pays off. We did just see the World Series champion Texas Rangers spend their way to a title. spending $1 billion over the last 2 seasons. That finally worked for them. Dodgers are taking it up a notch. They spent $1 billion in 2 weeks.
Yeah, right, exactly.
In an effort to win their first legitimate World Series since 1988.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, one thing too is like something to be said for Ohtani too. I mean, obviously point should be taken. He's not like the best guy in the world because he deferred all that money, because he's still going to make, to your point, with endorsements, like $50 million a year.
There's more advantages than that to him, because he's essentially going to probably either retire after that deal before the 680 kicks in.
Yeah.
He could just move out of California and avoid their state income tax, which
right. That's the
very
other
punitive. So he's winning. He's winning no matter what. And the Dodgers are winning. Everybody wins except for, I guess, anyone that's not a Dodgers fan.
Yeah, I do like the idea, though, the concept that he is deferring that money so they could spend money in an effort to try to win. Like, you don't see a lot of players that are necessarily willing to do that, like give up their money that's owed to them so the team can better themselves to that extent. So
right. You saw in the only example I can think of is football, and Tom Brady
exactly.
was taking small contracts with the Patriots, mainly because he had so many endorsement deals, but his wife made more money than he did.
Right.
As a supermodel. So that
worked
was
out
an
well
easy
in the divorce, probably.
Yeah, I've never heard about that. That's for our other podcast that we don't do anymore. But
yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's unprecedented to the level, I guess, that what happened here. So, but to your point, yeah, he's helping the Dodgers. You know, he's not hamstringing the Dodgers in any way, so they can't make other moves, which is really smart on his part if he wants to win championships.
Yeah,
just
he really does. So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got no problem with him. It's just the situation, and the Dodgers, again, they didn't break any rules. They're just exploiting the situation.
Exactly. I don't have, as much as I want to have I have a general problem with the Dodgers, but I really don't. I mean, to me, and we're going to get to him later, but an old ass owner like Reinsdorf, the Sox should be signing everyone to these types of contracts, because he'll be long dead when they have to be paid. Yeah. They can build a destroyer of a team. You don't have to pay for any of it.
Well, it begs the question: why aren't the Cubs in? And why didn't they
any of our teams?
Level? Yeah, again, Ohtani didn't want to go anywhere else. He wanted to go to the Dodgers, and we knew that from the beginning.
Obviously,
we'll get to the Cubs. We'll certainly get to Jerry and your White Sox. It's going to be the majority of the second half of the show. So, I think before we get there, I think we should talk about some positive things with another team you support, with your San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get the negative out of the way. They offered, like Smitty already pointed out, Ohtani already had determined he was going to the Dodgers because the Giants offered him $700 million. So, and he said, no, I'm going to the Dodgers instead. So again, this was like another somewhat depressing moment for Giant fans, as we saw we were pawns in the Aaron Judge game of the year before, and it's like we always seem to keep losing out on that big name. But they signed Korean superstar Jung-Hoo Lee almost immediately, within days of the Ohtani deal being announced. They signed him. He's 24 years old. He's got fluctuating power numbers, but his overall play his numbers are really solid coming out of Korea.
He's an OBP guy. I mean, I've heard comparisons to Ichiro. He also wears number 51, I think, because that's his favorite player of all time, potentially. But
yeah,
he's a leadoff hitter, isn't he?
Yeah, his lifetime OPS is 898. His lifetime OBP is 407.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he has had some crazy power numbers too. Like for a leadoff guy, 2 years ago he hit 23 homers and drove in 113.
I know
So,
do you know much about the Korean Baseball League? I don't know. I know like the Japanese league, the stadiums are a little bit smaller, so power numbers don't translate quite as well here. Just
right,
because the stadiums are a little bit bigger and the ball's a little bit smaller in Japan too, I think.
right.
I don't know how that compares in Korea, but
Yeah, and I all this stuff, like when someone comes over, I mean, like I think obviously it's used as a measuring stick on the player's ability to be successful in the major leagues in American baseball. But I
we're gonna have to see.
it looks good, but I could be away. It could turn into a bust. I mean,
Yeah, it could be
and
Fukudomi from the Cubs,
yeah,
or it could be Suzuki. Who
and
knows?
And the other thing is, it could be a bust the first year, and then it could be great after that. So, like
Yeah.
we've seen that. We've seen players come over the first year. They feel like the stress of
Getting
having to
acclimated to a
produce,
new culture, all
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, and they have like a average first year, and then everyone's like, "Oh, what a waste of money!" And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh yeah, that's the
Well,
guy."
think about how often just an American free agent
Yep,
changes cities, and how that pressure to perform is all it seems to happen a lot to new
Te-
free agents.
Texas Rangers last year,
Yeah.
Marcus Semien. I mean, he looked like, wow, what a waste of money. Well,
It
that
had
was not the case this year.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, just add to that, coming to a new country with a new language, all of that. Like how that's just I just can't
Yeah.
imagine how difficult that whole process would be. But it's got $113 million to help him through that. It was
Yeah,
a
he'll be, yeah. That'll be
6-year
bad.
deal. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was 6 years.
There
Yeah.
might be a
6 years.
seventh option, but
There's an option, a couple options in there, I
he
think.
does have the coolest nickname I've heard in a while. Grandson of the Wind.
Yes, it's up on our graphic right here, right
Right?
now.
Well
Perfect
played.
timing.
For
If
those watching on
viewing,
YouTube.
if you're viewing this.
Yeah, so apparently his father was a Korean baseball legend, nicknamed Son of Wind. So of course, uh, what's his name? Kung Hu Lee. I forget how their names work. Lee is the surname, but they have the same first name, but the middle name is different. I forget how that works.
What you got me.
Never mind. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
let's
he
move
comes
on.
from baseball royalty
All right.
in Korea. So
I believe you.
grandson of Win was my point. So
Breaking the wind. Other than that, there's not a ton to talk about for the Giants right now. I think they were so in. I mean, I really do believe they were obviously talking to Ohtani. I think if you were a West Coast team
yeah,
outside of the Athletics, and maybe the Angels. I mean, I wouldn't. I heard the Angels obviously did not make any sort of offer anywhere near that amount of money, but I'm sure they were listening, or they were like listening in and seeing if
they
they
were in
could
the
make a move
conversation, but
in the conversation somewhere. But I think the Giants were so focused on that this is obviously their backup plan was to sign Lee. So they just immediately did that afterwards. And, the free agent market as a whole, at least for our teams outside of the Tigers, who've made a lot of acquisitions and whatnot, have been pretty quiet, and a lot of big names overall in Major League Baseball. I think I read the other day there's $8.1 billion in salaries still yet to be like
I saw
signed or
something along
something.
those lines. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forget how
something
that
crazy. It was
works.
Passan, I think, posted it
Yeah,
because there was there was like a bunch of teams that have bunch of teams that are supposed to be active that have a big old zero next to that team name so far. So everyone's being like, don't worry, there's a lot of action to still happen. So
we're gonna get to one of those in a bit, but you mentioned my Detroit Tigers
Detroit.
being pretty active on the free agent market so far. I'm a little bit surprised. They signed Kenta Maeda to a 2-year, $24 million contract right out from their division rival Twins. I've liked Maeda for a while. He's about a 4 ERA pitcher for his career. He's been hurt a lot. He's approaching 35 years old. 2-year deal. I'm not too worried about it. Hopefully they can get something out of him. Just adds to the pitching depth. You can never have too much rotation depth. I don't mind the signing. It's a short-term deal, not a ton of money. Doesn't stop him from doing other things, including signing Jack Flaherty, which I didn't see that coming at all. He's was on my radar for the last 5 years almost. I picked him as my ace in my fantasy league about 4 years ago and was very disappointed because I think that was coming off of his sole very good year back in 2019 where he had a sub 3 ERA.
Yep.
231 strikeouts, low 1 whip. That's really the only time he's ever put it all together in one season is 2019. He struggled with shoulder injuries, oblique issues. Shoulder injuries really scare me. But elbows used to be scary. Pretty much Tommy John has taken care of that. Right. Shoulders are still a hazy mystery to medical science. There's just so much going on in there that you can never really count on being able to figure out how to solve a shoulder issue. So I don't expect a whole lot out of him. Neither do the Tigers, apparently. They only signed him to a 1-year deal. I think it's $14 million. Like we always say, there are no bad 1-year deals. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, it just costs you some money. And like we said, every major league owner has money to spare. So
cost you some cash.
Yeah, that shouldn't cost much. So I think there's huge upside with that if he is healthy and can get it back together. The potential is there. It's just if you can actually get it out of him. Fortunately, They're not just solely relying on him. Like I said, they've got their rotation is about 6 or 7 deep right now if you include all the young guys from last year. Plus, Casey Mize coming back from Tommy John surgery this season. So I like those moves. Other moves were to the bullpen. The return of Andrew Chafin, Rod Beck Jr., shooter number 2. He's coming back to the Tigers after a year hiatus. I love that. And then the Tigers just signed Shelby Miller to what is this? It's I forget how many year deal. I think it's only a 2-year deal. He was with the Dodgers last year, had a sub 2 ERA in over 42 innings, sub 1 whip, and yet he doesn't re-sign with the Dodgers. I'm not sure. The only thing I can think of is they just can't afford him. I mean,
yeah, I know. It is weird.
So, or maybe they know more. Maybe there's an injury issue we don't know about, but I just thought that was strange. Like he was already at a good spot. The Dodgers, you'd think, would be wanting bullpen depth with everything else they've added. So, hey, it's the Tigers' advantage. Shelby Miller was a big starting prospect back in the day, but he's moved to the bullpen and has found its place there. So I like the Tigers' rotation depth and now their bullpen depth as well. So I also like that they got Maeda from the Twins, who the Twins also lost Sonny Gray to the Cardinals in free agency. So their rotation has been gutted. It sounds like the Twins are one of those teams that might be severely adversely affected by the Valley Sports bankruptcy proceedings, as they're going to lose their TV money this year. And it sounds like they are cutting salary dramatically. So that's going to be something interesting to watch. The Guardians are another team that's been affected by that. They're losing their TV deal. I haven't read that they're cutting salary as drastically as the Twins appear to be. So we'll see how that plays out. But maybe that's the part of the thinking of the Tigers, kind of going for it with, middle-aged guys. These guys they're signing are in their 30s to go around a very young nucleus that's already there. They're really going for it this year, it seems like, considering the White Sox have taken their step back. Apparently, they're trying to recreate the Kansas City Royals again.
What?
Speaking of the Royals, they're the other team in the division who might see an opportunity, as they've spent $105 million in free agency already. But last year I kept beating the concept into the ground of don't confuse activity with accomplishment, with the Cubs specifically. But in this case, I think the Royals might be doing that, because they spent $105 million, but it's very not much in return. The names they got so far, so I'm not necessarily worried about the Royals. There's another factor involved there. They're asking taxpayers to build them a brand new stadium in the next years. I believe a vote for that comes up in 2024. So probably
really?
asking for $1 billion from local taxpayers. So they figured they could spend $100 million to kind of pretend that they're into it, in it to win it this year.
We're going all in for a new stadium.
You were just at Kauffman Stadium last year or 2 years ago. I feel
Last summer.
Was it last summer? What? I've never been there. What did you think of the stadium?
I mean, it was fine.
Is it run down? Were they in need of a new ballpark?
No, not at all. I don't think so.
I know they just did, maybe 10 years ago, they did a major renovation where they went nuts with the waterfalls and everything out in the outfield. It looks cool from TV, but
I mean, the concourse was a little narrow. But outside of that, I mean, I don't know. I think I told you, I think I said this on the podcast, like they're surprised at how expensive everything was there.
Really?
I was like going in there thinking I'm going to eat like a king, drink like a king. I'm out of Chicago. Nope. No, like beers were like freaking $18.
That's worse than Wrigley. What the fuck are they doing?
I know. That's what I said. You need a new stadium. You need new pricing. Jesus. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I thought it was fine. The outfield seats were a decent view. They had put in all this like out in the outfield concourse. There's like this whole like a kid zone thing like the White Sox have. They also have a great Hall of Fame there with a ton of baseball memorabilia, like of games that took place at Kauffman Stadium and teams that have played there. And there's like some White Sox stuff in there too. It was really cool. And I thought to myself as I'm walking through this Hall of Fame in Kansas City, I'm like, we have two teams with, have had some pretty decent players on their teams and have a lot of history in Chicago, and neither one have anything like this inside the stadium. And it's just actually was like unfathomable to me because of how cool it was. So
yeah.
I don't see any reason why they need a new stadium other than whatever monies it's
potentially they would be able to build more suites and get corporate income that way.
Right. Exactly.
That's most of that. So that's why I think they're kind of throwing some cash around right now just to make the fan base feel better about giving them $1 billion to build a new fucking stadium when they don't even need it. But
right. Yeah. Cause I definitely don't think they need it, but that's just my humble opinion.
Well, the Tigers weren't done there. They went ahead and extended manager AJ Hinch, terms undisclosed. There was actually some mystery a couple of years ago, like how if he had an opt-out from his deal or his original deal or whatever. So they don't typically disclose terms for managers, I guess. But I was happy to hear that. I'm more than happy with my manager.
You love that guy.
I feel like he's a top 5 manager. I feel like both of my teams now have top 5 managers, but we'll get into that. But
yeah, we'll see.
Again, the Tigers weren't done there.
Oh, God.
They went ahead and signed your broadcaster, one Jason Benetti. Beloved broadcaster. I mean, I was floored by this. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Maybe there were rumblings that there was a little bit of friction. He wanted to spread his wings a little more, as you've seen him and heard him doing college football and basketball games. Wanted more time to be able to, kind of stamp his national presence. And it sounded like the White Sox weren't too happy about that. But I thought they'd be able to work that out. Or if they couldn't, he might go to another major market someplace. But I never dreamed he would come to my Detroit Tigers. That is very much a lateral move in every sense. I'm not delusional thinking Detroit is a better place to call games than Chicago is. I would say it's lateral, if anything. But to go to a division rival, it's just a kind of a slap in the face of the White Sox. so many layers of irony to this as well. The Tigers, they haven't had a very good broadcast booth for quite some time, since the times of
true.
Mario Impembla and Rod Allen. They actually
Very true.
ended their careers in Chicago, ironically enough, again, with a dust up there at Guaranteed Rate Field between the two broadcasters off air, that ended their time with the Tigers. Jason's first game to call for the Tigers will also be at Guaranteed Rate Field, as the Tigers open on the road on the south side of Chicago. So that's going to be an interesting broadcast. I didn't see it coming. I maybe you had more insight into it. Had you heard more rumblings about?
No, I didn't see. I thought it was a joke when I got the text. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, because it's just like another like, "Oh, great, White Sox. Let's get some more positive press."
Oh, the great thing about the White Sox the last couple of years is their broadcast. He and Stoney are just we've done segments about how great they are and the awards they've won.
Yeah, the fact that the owner doesn't understand his style of broadcasting. Like, if I own,
he doesn't think he's funny was the quote I saw.
He
just doesn't think Jason's funny.
They asked him to like curtail the shenanigans for, I don't know what they said exactly, but and be more straightforward on the broadcast. And I'm like, weird, Jerry. Usually when something like Fox Sports signs you to a national contract, you're a pretty good sportscaster.
Yeah.
You do a pretty good job. He does multiple sports. They want his voice on multiple sports. He's good enough for a national Fox audience, but he's not good enough for Jerry Reinsdorf. And, this guy just continues to be like an albatross around the neck of the White Sox.
We'll definitely get.
But yeah, I mean, and Jason Benetti going to the Tigers, it makes perfect sense to me, especially what he said. I mean, he actually pictures the Tigers now as how the White Sox were when he joined the White Sox.
Yeah.
They're this up and coming team. They have a lot of positivity going their way. It's going to be easy to go on there and preach, the Tigers message, because it's trending upward. They actually hired the right guy for the job. He's not going to have to, like dance around having Tony La Russa be the manager of his team. So, yeah. I mean, it's honestly, it's probably going to be pretty easy for him to go to work every day and do a broadcast right now. I mean, because it like I said, it's all he's going to a team that could very well win the AL Central this year, because it's right for the taking, and they already had like a decent young nucleus in place that should be a bit better this year, if not some maybe taking larger strides forward this year. And it's exactly what we all were sold on with the White Sox, except I think the major difference is you have what looks to be a much more competent management team in place in the dugout. So, and that, as we see, can lead to world championships. So
dugout and in the front office. So
I actually it stings. It's not, I don't even know if it stings. It's just comical that he went to the Tigers to me.
Yeah.
Anything else, like, I get it. I believe fucking too. Fuck you, Reinsdorf. Fuck you, Brooks Boyer, for like fucking, telling me I gotta like, someone needs to tell Jerry to shut the fuck up and let us do our job. You sit up there and write checks, douchebag.
Yeah. I mean, I made the graphic there, Benedict Benetti, just because it had a funny ring to it, and I got to add the Old English D into the middle of it. But is there a sense of betrayal? I mean, are people pissed at Benetti for leaving?
Obviously, I mean, it's White Sox fan base.
Well,
yeah, there'll be a mix. There'll be some that are, well, it's weird. There's always those. There is a like core of White Sox fans who, and these are obviously older fans, like older than me, who think La Russa was good as a manager and Jerry Reinsdorf can't be blamed for the players not performing.
Oh, okay.
That whole narrative. So they probably are in the camp of "fuck you, Benetti, you baby." So the old
Just
school
White Sox
mentality.
loyalists, no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what. So, but I think overall, like guys like us who are doing podcasts and all that are just like, of course he left. I mean, why would you?
Well, you mentioned Brooks Boyer. There's a rumor out there that he kind of disparaged Benetti's physical handicap, or his. Does he have multiple sclerosis? What is he?
Yeah, MS, yeah.
And he kind of brought that up in a conversation, salary conversation. I think the quote was, this is a rumor, so I don't know how there's a quote, but something about, do you want Jason Benetti money or normal human being money? It's like, what? Like, how did that come through? The only time I ever hear about Brooks Boyer is, he comes on the radio to talk about the new promotions, for the season.
And food.
I didn't realize he was like the vice president of communications or something. I thought he was like your marketing director, but it sounds like he's much more than that.
Yeah, he wears a couple hats there.
But
not
I don't
well,
think
though.
Doesn't sound like he was a fan of Benetti either. So there's a lot of again, I watched a ton of White Sox games over the last 5 years, partly because I'm obsessed with this podcast and it makes for better content if I know what I'm talking about. But they were such an enjoyable broadcast. I mean, Benetti and Stone, I would say that was probably the best local broadcast in baseball that I've seen.
Not anymore.
And I feel bad for Stone. I kind of wish Stone would come with him to Detroit, even though he has no ties. But that would be the most tremendous coup. Have you heard about replacements that will be partnered with Stone?
Haven't heard a thing. I think they should do.
Connor McKnight is one name that's with ESPN 1000. I think he's called some games from time to time.
Some games. I mean, I think they should do Stoney right and bring Chip Carey in. Really make his.
that would be awesome. Yeah, he just went to St. Louis last year, I think.
So. Yeah, no, but I don't know. Whatever it's going to be a homer move. It's probably not going to be a very good broadcast, except for Stone. It's going to be a one-sided situation. I mean, we know you got Len Casper sitting right there, but he specifically went to the White Sox so he could do radio. So
he thought they were going to win a World Series when he left. So
that too. So I don't know.
He wanted to call a World Series as the local radio broadcaster.
Well, maybe he should go to the Tigers or something.
Well, he's from Michigan, so
yeah.
Casper,
maybe that's the next move. Casper's going to the radio booth.
He grew up a Tigers fan, so why not? Dan Dickerson's doing a fine job here in Detroit's radio booth, so I don't think that's going to happen. But
yeah, so
go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't think he has any interest in going back to the TV side of things.
No.
So, yeah.
Tigers, like I said, they've had a pretty mediocre broadcast crew for a while. Matt Shepard took over from Mario and Rod. They have a rotating crew of color analysts. Certainly most have been mediocre. Some have been controversial. Jack Morris got suspended for making a racist joke on air 2 years ago, I think it was now. Dan Petrie, another 84 Tiger. He's actually one of the better substitutes for the color commentary job. He's been good. Craig Monroe is my favorite from the 2006 era Tigers. A lot of energy. The worst, though, by far, has been Kirk Gibson, and it's not fair necessarily to criticize him, but he is a television broadcaster with Parkinson's, and his voice is weak. He's a weird guy is what it comes down to. He's got a weird sense of humor. He sounds strange. He does give some managerial insight to the broadcast as a former manager and World Series hero, but just an awful color commentator. And I hope they can pair Benetti with somebody strong as Petrie or Monroe. I haven't heard who else might be in the mix or what their plans are, but it is a dramatic upgrade in the television booth for my Detroit Tigers, and I cannot wait for next season.
Me neither.
You might be watching more Tigers games this year, so you can get your Benetti fix.
Maybe.
Yeah. We'll see if you even watch White Sox games this year.
Yeah, that is debatable.
Well, I think we should talk about your White Sox. You've had a few moves here and there that
we've
mentioning.
We've spent like $16 million so far in the free agent market.
That's 16 more than the Cubs.
$16 million more than the Cubs. Yeah, I mean, they had the bold move. They were somehow able. I mean, not that this is going to send them to a World Series, but they were somehow able to extract 5 players from the Braves for Aaron Bummer. That was, not a bad
crazy.
move.
His ERA was like in the 6s this year, and they get 5 players for him. So
yeah, they got of course they got a former Royal in Nicky Lopez.
Of course.
I
think he's from Chicago originally, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from
Local
boy from Naperville.
Makes sense.
Then they got Mike Soraka, who, honestly, like there's some upside to that one.
Yeah,
if you can stay healthy.
Again,
he's one of those guys.
Yeah.
They got another minor league pitcher, Jared Schuster, another shortstop, Brandon Shemaki, and I don't remember who's the 5th guy. I don't remember the 5th guy for that.
Regardless, that's a hell of a haul for who's what's turned out to be a pretty mediocre middle reliever.
Yeah.
The upside is, you always think Bummer should be better than what he puts out there, but he had a 6.79 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP this past season. So you pointed out a bunch of times, didn't he have just terrible luck?
Yeah, but it was funny. The minute after I came on and told people to back off of Aaron Bummer, because he does have like some crazy like soft contact rate stats that are like
defense
that are untouchable. He literally, from that moment on, I think he let up like 5 home runs over the next like 15 appearances.
Well, baseball is so vexing. As soon as you say something the opposite is
jinx.
True, yeah, immediately.
Jinx.
That's why I try not to do too much trash talking.
Right, exactly.
Ass.
What else did the Sox do? They signed Paul DeYoung to a 1-year contract. So
no bad 1-year deals. So
interesting
about that. I'm not sure it solves your shortstop situation,
but it definitely is. It makes me believe that they're not quite ready to bring Montgomery up at the beginning of the year for whatever reason. So I'm trying to think what else they did.
Yeah, that'd be pretty aggressive. They could bring up Montgomery, but I feel like he's probably a late season call up. Certainly by 2025, he should be in your opening day roster, but this year might be a little aggressive, but
they of course signed Eric. Is it Fadidi? To that 2-year contract after his stellar performance in the Korean League, where he left because here I'll give you the difference. This is why you hold out results when someone comes over from Korea. He is lifetime WAR in the majors is -0.3 with a 5.41 ERA and a 1.523 WHIP. He was 20-6 with a 2 ERA, a 0.95 WHIP, a 209 strikeout to 35 walk ratio in 30 starts over 180 innings in Korea.
That's interesting.
So, Sox are taking a chance on him. 2-year deal. There's been, I can't remember the player's name, but there's been a player or two who have gone to Korea and somehow, I don't know, better coaching over there or something from what they were getting, and they come back and they are better at the major league level.
Resurrected their career somehow
after doing that. So could be something, could be nothing. I'm not expecting much out of the White Sox as a whole anyway this year, or more like they are going to be a whole this year. So yes, thank you. they got there was another move with the Braves where they signed Max Stassi, who didn't even didn't even catch last year because he was he had an elbow surgery or something. Of course, he got traded for one of our favorite. It was a trade. The Sox traded on one of their star players, future considerations.
Oh yes,
One of our favorite players to be traded.
brother of cash considerations.
Yes, brothers of
brother
cash.
future.
Yeah, future of cash. So, and a lot of moves that don't really get you excited.
Yeah.
This goes back to what was it? What was your line for the Cubs last year?
Don't confuse activity with accomplishment.
Exactly.
How could you forget? I've said it like
I
30,000
know.
times in this
I know.
podcast.
I'm old. I'm rattled from us still trying to get on the air earlier. So, yeah, I mean, they could sign whoever the fuck they wanted. They're not going to though. And again, I think Jerry, should seize his opportunity to not have to worry about paying anyone out of his own pocket. He'll be dead by the time he can get some of these Ohtani contracts working for the White Sox. Defer the money 10 years later. It's all good.
You basically need to sign an entire rotation at this point.
What do you got? We got Eric Fadidi.
That's right. But there's major rumors out there that Chris Getz is indeed shopping Dylan Cease.
No one is off the market.
I think that makes sense because he would get the most in return if you are indeed rebuilding once again, which seems pretty obvious that you are.
We don't want to say that.
No, it's not a good word, but it's the truth. I can't imagine what the return would be for Cease, but I think he did have a bit of a down year last year, not to his Cy Young caliber of the previous season, but certainly not a disaster by any means. And there's such a negative vibe with the whole club last year. I think you could kind of chalk that up to a part of that. But
right, yeah, totally. Yeah, the Dodgers are are on that list, and they have more than enough. They have more than enough players, good players they could trade for him. And in that case, that doesn't, that's not gonna affect them much more, by doing a trade for adding Dylan Cease to that rotation, which, God, it's just, think about and if you want to, go 1 year into the future, the idea that rotation could be Ohtani, Cease,
Yamamoto,
Bueller. Right there. Who cares who 5 is? Jesus. Maybe Cease is 5. That's the weird thing about it. So
they'll still flame out in the playoffs no matter what.
I know. I love it. That's what I love. I hold out hope. Yes. But it's weird. Atlanta is also, are the Sox is Getz just gonna keep trading with Atlanta?
He did well the first time. Why not?
Yeah, Cease is from Atlanta, from Georgia.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
there was something there. Baltimore's also on the list. They've got plenty of talent there. So the one thing I do like about Getz right now is he's, from what I'm reading, is the reason trades haven't happened is he's not budging on the asking price to get a deal done because he doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to. That's
the
way to do it.
2 more years of control. There's no reason to force something. Like you really want Dylan Cease, then give us what he's worth. So
yeah, he's playing that correct.
Yeah, I feel like in a way our prior regime would just to try to quickly move the narrative might make a rash decision to get the focus off of one negative to persuade the press, the Kenny Hahn combo, to try to smoke and mirrors move for everybody. So I so far, with probably what Getz has been given, the task that is ahead of him, I don't have any immediate complaints. outside of the whole idea that we're, you know, we'll see how many fucking Royals end up on this team. You know, that whole idea just is annoying to me, but you know, time will tell on that. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for trading Dylan Cease, not because I want to, you know, see him go, but
The timelines just don't match up. If you've got
yeah, it's not it.
2 years of control, maybe by that second year you're back in contention. But that's
But
kind
then
of,
he's out the door anyway. They're not going to pay him the money. So,
we have heard your owner laugh at the idea of spending big on free agents, and we have.
but did he know he's old like Tony that he could actually like defer like 10 years down the road all this money? So maybe this
Never
could be
thought of it.
this could be our year, really. This could
It's
be
an eye opener. Yeah.
Yeah, he may have pulled Getz back in the office. He's like, wait a minute. I could sign a guy for like 400 million and then I could get dump this fucking team and not
Never
even been
pay
on the
it.
hook for him. Yeah. Oh, it's just like me getting a stadium built here. This is fucking beautiful. Let's do it.
We'll definitely get to that in a bit.
All right. Well, that's all I got. I'm done. They again, I have low expectations. I will go to games. I will watch the White Sox. I'm a diehard fan. So I'll probably enjoy Giants games a lot more like I did last year too. But
you have a responsibility to this podcast to rant and rave about all the White Sox games you've been disappointed in watching.
Yeah, or all the ones I'm like, holy shit, they're 10-0. Who thought coming?
Dare to dream. I like it.
They really kicked the shit out of those Tigers and Jason Benetti. They sent
the revenge match. Yeah.
They sent him limping right out of town.
Oh man.
What?
Well,
I didn't mean it like that. Or did I?
Jesus. One team that you did not mention that should be in the trade market for one Dylan Cease is my Chicago Cubs.
But they're not doing anything. Why would I mention them?
It actually would make sense at a lot of levels. I mean, on the surface, he'd come back to the organization, ironically, again. But they need pitching depth, as everyone does, and he would fit right in. The Cubs also have the farm system to hand over to Chris Getz and the White Sox, as they've done before. It seems like there could be a match there. I think that'd be quite controversial, but I wouldn't mind seeing it, I guess. I think that's kind of a pipe dream, but seems like everything's a pipe dream these days with the very rich yet frugal Chicago Cubs, as once again, they are not doing a whole lot in the offseason. I complained most of last offseason. They did eventually make some solid bigger moves, but not necessarily the tier 1 level moves that I was expecting or others were expecting. So far, they've done basically nothing. They have signed 2 catchers to minor league deals this offseason, but so far nothing has come through. They were apparently in the running for Shohei, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, again, that's not necessarily their fault because I don't think he was ever even thought about going anywhere besides Los Angeles. But I thought they might be in on the Yamamoto deal. Of course, that did not come through. They've been rumored to be in on trading for Juan Soto. That, of course, did not happen. There's plenty of other rumors out there with a potential trade for Pete Alonso. I don't really see that happening, even though he's in the last year of his deal with the Mets. The ones that are out there now, and I think the most likely is signing Rhys Hoskins.
That's the big one right now.
Yeah, first baseman from the Phillies. He didn't play last year due to an injury. He was actually going to be potentially on the World Series roster if the Phillies had made it that far. So his injury is behind him. I would love that move. They need to replace Cody Bellinger at this point. They also need help at third base potentially, as they did not resign Candelario. I think Matt Chapman could be a fit there, but again, we're not seeing much. They're going to have to address the rotation as well. That's why I think a trade might be in the works, especially considering the depth of their farm system. So they're $51 million underneath the luxury tax cap right now, the de facto salary cap that we have all learned is complete bullshit. That owners just choose not to go over. They could certainly do it if they wanted to. But that's not even the craziest thing. Committed salaries for 2025 put them 128 million underneath that luxury tax threshold. So they have plenty of funds to make radical free agency moves.
Yeah.
Such that the Dodgers just did.
Right.
They are just choosing not to do it at this point for whatever reason. I fear they might get into a position where they have to overpay for Cody Bellinger to get his services back. You and I have talked about that before.
Throw him the fastball.
Yeah, his numbers dipped dramatically in the final month of the season, and it was not hard to figure out. It doesn't take a analytical department to figure this out. He could not handle heat. You just threw him a fastball, and he struggled in September. So
Yep.
that is a disturbing trend. That's something you need to fix immediately, and he was unable to do so. Again, that could be an anomaly, but you just don't know with this guy. Bellinger had a great 5 months with the Cubs, but previous to that, he was all over the place. One of the worst hitters in baseball. He was an MVP before that, though. So you don't know with him. So giving him a long-term deal and big bucks that his agent Scott Boras is going to demand, I think is the wrong move. And I'm afraid that's where the Cubs are going to get put in a position they're going to get put into. And at that point, you're just treading water because you had him last year. You still have to address the rotation, third base,
Right.
bullpen depth. I'm not as worried about the bullpen. You can always find ways to work that, and usually they figure out lots of creative ways to get a solid bullpen. But I don't know. It's frustrating that this is the slowest free agent market that we've ever seen, so that's adding to the frustration. Most of that was just because the Ohtani backup. Everyone was waiting for his deal to get done before things could open up. And we've seen a little bit of movement, but not much. So I'm being a little impatient, assuming that the Cubs should have made more moves by now. But again, some of the biggest names are already coming off the board, and Cubs are failing to nail those. So it's a frustrating experience. Doesn't mean that they're not going to do something cool.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's plenty of big names out there still, not that can put a competitive roster on the field for the Cubs, and like you said, they could get creative through the trade market. The one thing I just want to point out, like you use the word rumors more than a few times, and it is truly the Cubs, and this is good. This is a good thing to have, but they do have like a great marketing machine there and a PR department. And I think a lot of the rumors of what they're in on and what they're not in on, or really more, let me just rephrase that. What they're in on are created by their own marketing department. And I think it happens for the White Sox too, when you hear they were in on some big name and then it didn't come to fruition.
I just think that sets you up for failure, though, when it doesn't happen. I'd be surprised if the marketing department.
But think of all the failure they've had, all the names they've been in on allegedly over the last 2 to 3 years, and
that's what's annoying the fans the most at this point is that they're not.
I know, but the fans also, like, there's a lot of fans out there that are more naive than you and I, who
naive baseball fans. I can't imagine that.
I know, right? That are like, oh man, well they tried, but they just didn't get them. So there's a positive spin to that for probably majority of baseball fans. Right. I still hear people say stuff about the Sox and Manny Machado, and Manny Machado didn't want to come here. I'm like, well, he didn't want to come here because he got fucking lowballed. Yeah. Like, how did you miss that part of the story? I mean, like, Jesus. So anyway.
Well, I saw a quote from Jesse Rogers this week on ESPN 1000.
Yeah, it's a good one.
People were, how did he phrase it? Someone told Jesse, and I wonder if that someone is you and me, because we've been saying for a long time that the White Sox are a major market ball club acting like a small market team. The Cubs are a major market ball club acting like a mid-market team. And that's a perfect way to sum up at least the last 5 years of both of our franchises, maybe more. But strange. They've conditioned us to believe that we're smaller mid-market teams. We can't be amongst the heavyweights, the bi-coastal elites in Los Angeles and New York. And yet there's no reason why we shouldn't be in that conversation and landing
Exactly.
these big free agents. Again, winning the offseason is not always a predictor of winning in the postseason, as you and I love to point out how few times that actually works out, where there's usually a clear winner of the offseason, and that clear winner rarely wins the World Series. So we're getting a lot of content out of this for the podcast, but it's going to be interesting to see how any of this really plays out. Cubs were actually much better than I thought they would be by the end of 2023. I was, of course, not entirely happy with their offseason maneuvers. They proved me wrong until the last week of the season, but which is unfortunate. But what can you do? I'm gonna, unless you have anything else about that, I'm gonna call an audible here.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yep.
I want to go back to, and before we get to our asshole of the year, as we wrap up this 2023, the final show of 2023, I threatened to nominate someone else for asshole of the year. That was a bit much.
Oh yeah, you I forgot you did skip him. Yes.
I do want to talk about Eduardo Rodriguez.
He's got to be the favorite of Tiger fans.
Yeah, former Tiger Eduardo Rodriguez signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
D-backs.
After being quite vocal about wanting to stay near the East Coast to be with his family, thus nixing a trade from the Tigers to the Dodgers at last season's trade deadline that would have helped the Tigers with a boatload of prospects from one of the best systems in baseball.
So strange.
And certainly would have helped the Dodgers on their quest for their first legitimate World Series victory since 1988, as clearly they were not prepared for the postseason, as they at one point had Lance Lynn pitching for them.
Yes.
Game. He, could not handle going to a contender on the West Coast for a 2-month span. And yet now he signed a 4-year deal on the West Coast with Arizona. He signed
the Arizona is a little further east.
Yeah, it is a little bit. You're right. I'd say several hundred miles, but
yes.
So technically, yes, he didn't move all the way to the West Coast, so he's not a hypocrite. But
he's in the desert, for fuck's sake.
It's just unbelievable what he put the Tigers and Tigers fans through, especially the year prior, where he took the unexplained leave of absence from the team that led to the firing of Al Avila eventually, which is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, so should be thankful for that.
So yeah, that's why I was going to potentially nominate him for asshole of the year, but I think that would be a bit much.
Do you think the Tigers will retire his number?
I don't even know what number he was. No. He got a 4-year, $80 million deal from the Diamondbacks, which is technically more than the 3 years and $59 million that he opted out of that was coming to him from the Tigers. So yeah, great move. While fucking over an entire two franchises and pissing me off. So I just want to throw that out there, but that also transitions us into an impromptu aesthetics.
Well, I think that's why he made the move, because
fancy new uniforms.
The fucking teal's banging.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks debuted or will be debuting brand new uniforms this year, as you saw briefly on a clip on the TV behind you. Essentially, they just took their current uniforms
they sure did.
Swapped out the sand color for teal.
Yeah, pretty much.
So now they are Sedona red, black, and teal. They also reintroduced some retro logos, like the snake that's shaped in a D. That's coming back as a hat logo. I didn't realize they had actually gotten rid of that for a while. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. They didn't make big differences, but it was enough to mention, as I love the aesthetics segment we do as a graphic designer. I drag you through this. I think you've started to grow to like this segment as we've covered all the City Connect jerseys for the different teams.
Yeah, City Connect jerseys are my favorite because it's hilarious, really.
Detroit
But
is not on the
everyone,
list for this year, but
what?
I believe next in 2025 they will indeed have a City Connect uniform. We'll see. But with the Diamondbacks, I actually like their uniforms. They've always looked very Southwest, kind of a unique thing. They're adding the teal as kind of a retro thing. They used to be purple and teal.
Right.
Somehow adding the teal to the Sedona red and black, it actually looks pretty good. It looks very, I mean, it's definitely unique to them. You will not confuse the Diamondbacks uniforms for any other teams.
100%.
I like it. What you had I think I sent you the breakdown, a couple of details.
Yeah,
of
it's there's 4 key details, a little less than what you get with the City Connect jersey.
Yeah, I thought this is merciful. You don't have to read this for 10 minutes.
They've returned to the classic off-white uniform, reminiscent of the team's original '98 uniform.
I didn't realize they were off-white, like the Giants are at home.
Yeah.
So it was a
As
good look.
you already mentioned, the D-Snake logo returns to the cap.
Yeah.
I, like you, didn't even pay attention to that it wasn't there.
It's a good logo. I mean,
yeah.
It makes sense.
The fan favorite teal returns, providing a unique and vibrant pop for this year's uniforms. And I'm assuming, I don't know if this is an alternate jersey. There's one jersey that just reads Diamondbacks now. The Diamondbacks word mark returns in its full form on the Sedona red alternate uniform.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had gotten rid of that either. It's kind of interesting when you see their new uniforms. It's like these weren't their uniforms all along. Like it
reminds me of the KC announcement last year.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the sign of good design that it just looks so natural. It's like, that's it. But it's also kind of bad if you're trying to make a splash with a new look that it just nobody recognizes as a new look.
Yeah.
Kind of a conundrum there. But I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and get him 2 middle fingers up.
Yeah, I got no. I mean, it's fine.
I'm gonna give Eduardo Rodriguez, when he wears that uniform, 2 middle fingers to his face.
I'm gonna be like, Eduardo, thank you. You annoyed Smitty.
Ed Weirdo. Well, I think unless there's anything else you'd like to speak about before we get to our final segment of the year, our favorite, our asshole of the year.
It's almost weird that it took this long for this to happen.
Yeah, we started out 5 years ago, started in September of 2019, just before the pandemic hit. Little did we know we would be podcasting remotely. It would be the perfect hobby to have during a global pandemic. And it's grown from there. And so this is now our 5th asshole of the year. First year was Addison Russell, of course. Second year was Rob Manfred, which we could probably nominate every single year. Although I think the rules changes this year were pretty damn popular. So maybe he doesn't earn those honors this year by any means.
Although I think he's just kind of inked on the ballot. He will never be removed because he's always going to do some dick move.
We'll keep him on the ballot. I like that.
He's just got a permanent spot. He's in the number 1 slot no matter what.
We gave the entire Mets organization this dishonor 2 years ago, and last year it was Fernando Tatis Jr. for crashing his motorcycle and getting busted for PEDs, trying to be the supposed face of baseball, completely ruined his reputation. But so I think we've had a fantastic list of assholes of the year, very, very worthy. And I think you're right. It's kind of amazing it's taken this long, but the perfect asshole of the year for 2023 has to be one Jerry Reinsdorf.
Yeah. He single-handedly in over 2 years, 2 baseball seasons, has, for me personally, and anyone who listens to this is well aware of this, had completely destroyed my love for baseball. I've
seen it. We witness anybody that watches this podcast or listens to us. You've seen it throughout these last 2 years, how it's happened. Your face looks different almost.
My Smitty was struggling to even get me to get back on towards an end of the year podcast because I could not even talk about baseball.
That's why I'm making Jerry my personal asshole of the year, because he's ruined my friend's love for baseball. Might ruin this podcast.
It was close. It was close. I was like, fuck, I don't even know if I want to do the podcast anymore. It's so bad.
I can't blame you. I mean, I hope you soldier on, but I can understand why you'd be so pissed.
I've come out of it because when we had that first podcast back, It was
fun.
it was very therapeutic. It can be
Right.
very therapeutic. But Jerry Reinsdorf's gross mismanagement of the White Sox as a functioning as a small market team in a major market is just unforgivable as a fan. And I can live with a little bit of like, okay, you want to run your organization as a business, fine.
Yeah.
I get that to a degree. So I'm not going to like, they were at one point the seventh highest payroll in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So they just didn't get the results from it that we thought. But whenever it has come down to signing any major talent that would have taken the roster that Rick Hahn had constructed via trade in a rebuild and brought in 2 or 3 key veteran pieces to push them over the top.
That's the phrase.
It never got done.
They never pushed it over the top. Just like you said, that's the one failing of Rick Hahn, and that's what cost them their jobs. Hahn and Williams.
Yeah.
They were not able to push it over the top with that one key free agent, just like you said, because everything else was there. Whatever chemistry issues, that were there, that could have been mitigated by star players potentially. So, yeah, I mean, I wrote a blog piece about a month or so ago, kind of chronicling comedically as best I could everything that Jerry's done this year. I thought maybe I'd go through that.
I think it's worth going through. I mean, this is our asshole of the year. We shouldn't leave it at a few sentences. So let's give him his due.
Back when this used to be a blog, you and I used to write every day almost.
Yeah, then we got bored with that. We said, let's just talk.
Yeah, the technology got to the point where it was actually
who's got time to write?
Yeah, it was easier to podcast than it was to write anymore. But so I went for a throwback. I actually wrote a blog piece because I was so inspired by the assholishness of one Jerry Reinsdorf. I had to chronicle it all. So I called the piece "How to Make Your Fan Base Wish You Would Hurry Up and Die Already in 10 Easy Steps." Because I think the only, and you've mentioned it, the only way White Sox fans can feel like they're ever going to get out of this spiral is for him to get rid of the team. And one way the fastest way is probably for him to die, considering how old is he now? 82, 83?
87? No.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know if he's that old, but so yes, we are disparaging an old man at death's door, but he deserves it. Step number 1 of
87, by the way. I was right. Yeah, 87. Yeah.
Step number 1 of how to make your fan base wish you would hurry up and die already in 10 easy steps. Number 1 is publicly state finishing in second place every year is your goal. He's actually done that on multiple occasions.
He has.
Which is, if that's your goal, it's understandable as a business. The philosophy there is you keep the fans interested. You keep them buying season tickets, but you don't have to really pay for a winner. You can be a mediocre, middling team, but you're always kind of in the mix. Don't say it publicly. Like, what are you doing? That's just, I don't think it's stupid. I think he's just that arrogant. He just does not care what anyone thinks. And he will just 100%. Tell everyone to their face what he's doing. Number 2 is build a roster full of entitled underachievers. I think we've chronicled that to some degree. That's not necessarily his fault, but he was the overseer of all of it. They decided to pay a lot of those players that I criticized at the time. And we saw that's led to a malaise over the club. And I think that was a key failure. Number 3, hire your drunk buddy to manage, then let him hang around to influence the front office after he failed. He was just in the news last week. He's still in the decision-making process in the room with Chris Getz when they're doing stuff. It's like, get this drunk out of there. Like, what is happening? He's clearly out of touch with baseball. The game has passed him by, yet he is still a key decision maker, part of the key decision-making group with the White Sox. And it's just, considering how unpopular it was, it's got to drive people nuts every time you see his name. Number 4, cancel your annual fan fest for dubious reasons.
Oh God. Yeah. This is embarrassing. Like that you're no one within the White Sox organization wants to go to Sox Fest because they know it's just going to be malicious.
Yeah, but they blame COVID. It's the only event that's been canceled over COVID over the last 3 years, probably. I mean, are we still canceling things because of COVID? Although I am seeing a spike in COVID cases.
The vid.
But we're not canceling events anymore. But the White Sox take every opportunity to cancel the Sox Fest. I think you are doing some kind of thing this year, but they're not calling it Sox Fest. They're calling it something else. So COVID killed Sox Fest. That's just ridiculous. They're just scared to talk to the fans. It's embarrassing.
I mean, it is.
Number 5, raise your season ticket prices after finishing 500.
Yeah, I was publicly on the air about that, and I did a whole segment about it. Did not renew.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Number 6, publicly laugh at the idea of spending money on top free agents. We're not going to be in on the Shohei Ohtani deal. The assembled media laughed right with him, which is because everybody knows, of course, he's not. But just to laugh at that, the notion.
We will be in on the Eric Fadi deal, though, from Korea. The only ones.
Number 7. Trade your only likable, productive player to Miami. Of course, referencing Jake Berger. That was just such a kick to the dick. I think you got a good pitcher in return, but for literally he's the only likable guy for that at that point.
Who was under team control forever, and
he had a monster second half in Miami too.
Yeah, he did.
Brutal. Lose over number 8. Sorry. Lose over 100 games when you were expected to easily win the division. I famously picked you to go to the World Series.
Yeah, do it again next year.
I implored you to win a division because you had so much more talent than everyone else in the division, and yet 100 games, 101 losses. Number 9, start another rebuild by trying to recreate your chronically mediocre division rival, the Kansas City Royals.
There we go. There's a good one. Yes.
Why on earth would you emulate the Royals? It seems obvious what they're doing with of course, Getz, who is from the Royals organization. All the Royals pickups you made. The rumors that you're going after Pablo Sandoval or no,
Salvador
Perez.
I mean, I'd rather emulate the Royals as they are right now, who has spent over $100 million in the offseason.
Maybe he'll see that and say, "Oh, I should try that now."
Man, let's spend some money. We got $90 million more to spend.
It's such a weird thing. I just don't know why you try to emulate the Royals. But I mean, you could emulate, successful organizations. You look to them. But I mean, the Royals did have a run in 14 and 15.
Yeah.
But that's a long time ago. And number 10, let your wildly popular and nationally renowned broadcaster leave for another division rival in my Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
Just the coup de grace, the last straw. You let Benetti go. The one good thing. You let him go because you didn't like him. And you literally told people you don't like just didn't like him.
Yeah, go ahead, interview for whoever you want.
Just unbelievable. Oh, I have to throw in a bonus, number 11.
What?
It just happened last week. He was in Nashville meeting with city officials, but that had nothing to do with leveraging a new stadium.
No, he just happened to be in town.
Yeah, or potentially moving the franchise to.
They're moving it to that. I'm telling you, this West Side Mecca.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. My dome stadium on the West Side.
Wow,
it's gonna pull me back in 100%. Yeah. Especially since I'll probably be paying for it anyway.
Oh, you will. That's why I moved out of the state of Illinois.
I said I'll be paying for it. So I want to go see where my money went, where my tax dollars went.
At least I'm not paying for it anymore. I paid enough for Sox Park. So
yeah.
I did have one bonus one that I saw on Twitter that I thought was too hilarious. Number 12.
2 bonus then.
Okay, yeah, 2 bonuses. They're going to cancel. They're going to ban grilled onions because they're so.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
They're just way too popular.
That was when you said to me, "I think this would break his back, or this would be your final straw."
There'd be riots.
This would be at Sox type things. Final straw.
Yeah, if we couldn't get Polish with at Sox games, what the fuck are we doing? So
yeah, I mean seriously,
Jesus Christ. But I don't know if you wanted to pile on or add to that, but I thought that at least
I think that
a lot
was
of the major points.
That was a great summary of Reinsdorf's reign as White Sox president of operations of the whole thing. I mean,
Owner.
he
chairman.
I guess he got more lucky with the Bulls and that Jordan pick than really
pretty lucky considering what they've done since Jordan.
Yes, then really like going all in with the Bulls, and he's the guy who, they got the 6 championships, him and Jerry Krause, and it's kind of like Krause was a stooge too,
Organizations think about championships.
Yeah, so I mean, you wonder if the Bulls would have any championships if Jordan didn't fall to him while he was there. So, I mean, I was always kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt because of that too. Like, wow, he won 6 championships in the basketball team. He's surely going to win multiple championships with the baseball team.
Well, you've always got 2005. You got 2005.
I do.
You can hold on to that forever, but it doesn't keep him from being our asshole of the year.
Woo, Jerry, you earned it big time.
I do want to, before we wrap up the show, I have one question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Did they ever solve the Sox Park shooting mystery?
Nope.
Are there any people in custody?
But there was a story. Shit, I meant to pull it up before I got here. There was a story in like Florida where a woman was arrested because she was concealing a gun up her private part.
Okay, the rumor at Sox Park was in a fat fold.
Yeah, but to lend some truth maybe to what happened with the White Sox, apparently you can put a gun in places and it's not going to show up, baby.
Well, you did report that the security was upped the week or so after.
Oh, yeah, a few days after we go there like 4 days later, and suddenly my Apple Watch here is setting off the detector, and they're like, "Oh, it's probably your watch." And I'm like, "I've been walking through these fucking metal detectors for like 4 years with the fucking thing on."
They finally turned them on.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, there's an on switch. It's solar powered."
Well, if I did my job properly, people listening to this podcast just heard a new intro I created for this, which I think it's going to be a new segment in every show. I think I'm going to end every show in 2024 with, have they solved the Sox Park shooting?
Yeah.
Did the shots come from within or from without the South Side ballpark?
I mean, literally the Tribune did an article only a month ago about it, saying this is most likely going to remain a mystery.
That's just bizarre considering
it's going to be sealed like the JFK documents.
Yeah.
Until 2055. Then the documents will be opened to see what occurred.
This is a joke, but there are similarities with the JFK assassination. I mean, there's video evidence, plenty of video evidence.
Yes.
Hundreds of eyewitnesses.
Yes.
Most crimes are unsolved because there's no evidence and there's no witnesses. We have all of it here. So there's something fucked up's happening here. So I'm going to continue to ask the question throughout 2020.
I'm happy to field it too, because I do look for updates on this fucking thing, and there ain't nothing.
The truth is out there. It's someplace. So
we need Mulder. We need Mulder and Scully.
It should be an X-Files.
This is an X-Files situation. The episode's called The Gunt. Fupa
or Gunt? Well, with that, I think we can wrap up this episode. Our 5th annual Asshole of the Year episode, our favorite episode of the year, final episode of 2023. I want to wish you a happy Festivus to everyone out there who does observe it.
We aired those grievances today, that's for sure.
I think we did a good job of airing grievances. I think that's pretty much the theme of this entire podcast. So accomplished that. You and I haven't talked about this yet. I'm assuming there will be some more news to talk about in January. We'll probably do once a month, maybe one in January, and then certainly one in February as spring training kicks off.
Yeah, before we kick it into gear, probably second or third week of March, probably from there on out, right?
I think so. I think we should.
But hopefully I'm hopeful for someone within these teams that we follow here, that something major occurs that even causes us to want to hop back on the air for like 20 minutes or something. Just
can always do that. I like it. Yeah, I think the Cubs will do some. Cubs are going to do something. Dylan Cease trade might be the next White Sox thing that would get us
to the Tigers.
Oh my God! All right. Hey, I didn't see Benetti coming. Who knows?
I know. Maybe they're just going to send him to the Tigers for nothing.
Love it. Love the way you're thinking. Well, with that, we'll wrap up this episode. I believe it's 138 overall.
Sure, I believe you.
Crazy. In the meantime, you can find us on social media at Major League A-Holes and at Sox Type Thing on Twitter. You can find us at Major League A-Holes on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. Check out all our YouTube clips. I record the whole thing as one long podcast video, which seems to be popular. I don't know how anybody could watch us for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever we've done. But if you can't handle that, I split all these segments up into shorter bites so you can digest us a little more easily over on the YouTube. We are on the web at majorleagueaholes.com and soxtypething.com, and our merchandise is at ASSTHETICS.shop. ASSTHETICS.shop. So with that, I think we can declare this season is over. Peace.
Peace. Happy holidays. Merry New Year.
Word Hole Media.